Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the HummingBird V4. This is a 65mm whoop that features the Cockroach V3 frame from NewBeeDrone. The motors are 0702 30,000 kV. Props are the 31mm AZ props. This canopy is the Goober of V2 canopy. This does come in random colors, by the way. You can't choose which color you get. And the flight controller with the micro USB connector, and it does have motor connectors and LED lights down there on the board. It's just considered the HummingBird V4 Express LRS all-in-one flight controller. It does have an F411 and the BMI 270. It also features a VTX with power levels of 25 milliwatts, 100 milliwatts, all the way up to 400 milliwatts. And they tout that to be stable. I think that stable part is mainly for racing purposes or flying with a bunch of others. And this one features the NewBeeDrone 7456 OSD chip, which it says it's compatible with Betaflight, so you should be able to flash this one just directly from Betaflight rather than having to go to NewBeeDrone's website to get an updated hex file. It comes with a PH2.0 connector, and what I have to say about that is you have to look to replace this eventually. Whether that's 50 flights or 100 flights, we know that the PH2.0 connector breaks down and wears out on both the quad side as well as the battery side. It weighs on my scale 19.34 grams. I bought brand new PH2.0 batteries just for this quad review. So I got a pack of 6 from Amazon. This one is dead. See, no reading whatsoever. And yeah, I move pins around and stuff like that. The rest of them work just fine. It does come with 2 sets of props that I presume your spares will match the color that you get randomly. Get a small kit for repairs. Looks like we got some motor screws, some canopy screws, and a little rubber grommet. We get the proverbial prop remover as well as a camera adapter. It also comes with this HummingBird V4 ELRS quick start guide. The camera is mounted with the screw, but you can't lock the camera angle down because this camera is held by that 3D print. And so you can't really lock this down. So the camera angle in your harder crashes is going to change depending upon the crash and everything that happens during the crash. But this is the camera angle that I was using. Of course, we're going to start with the inside flight, and this has that, I'm going to mispronounce this, and people are going to laugh at me, but that's okay. The CAC software, it's just kind of a tweak on the firmware. So instead of the Betaflight text messages that you get on screen, like when we armed, you know, I think it said send it. It says different things. When your battery gets low, it gives you different sort of battery voltage warnings rather than battery low. So it's got some fun stuff built into it. And that's something that many have clued me into based upon a last review that I did on another NewBeeDrone product. So I always appreciate that input that can kind of bring me up to speed. So you may have missed it, but right as we took off, we saw a heavy amount of battery sag. And part of that is the high KV motors. This has 30,000 kV motors on it, which is pretty unusual for anything that's outside of that race sort of arena. And part of that is that PH2 connector. This is brand new batteries, So I don't have as many flights on this as I normally would, especially outside, because when you have to wait for wind and you've only got 5 working PH2 brand new batteries, that limits my amount of flight, and we already have a crash there as well. I did forget to turn on those lights in the spare bedroom downstairs, but no worries. These are high KV, and it's got a battery connector on it that is not going to hold up over time. And so if you're new, know that you're going to have to replace this. If you're a veteran, you probably already know this, and you probably don't even have any PH2.0 batteries. So you're probably looking to do a custom build, maybe with the motors or something like that. So this will probably be my last review of any whoop that has a PH2.0 connector, because I think it's time to move on. I know NewBeeDrone has the ability to have, I think they use the A30 on their race spec that they released a while ago, which is a really nice quad, one that I still enjoy today. Super lightweight. I think that one was right around that 15-gram marker. All sorts of fun, and even fun outside if you get a calm day. But with this PH2.0 connector, you get quite a bit of battery sag, even when it's fresh. You know, I've probably had less than 40 total flights on this, and at this point, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 flights on it before this flight. It flies well. It's been well tuned. It does have an adjustable camera angle, even though it does change angle when you do have those harder sort of crashes. So I approve of having adjustable camera angle, because that'll suit more people and more flight styles. The canopy itself doesn't provide any lens protection, so if you hit something headlong, you're very likely going to hit the camera or the lens. And so I'm not really certain about this new Goober canopy. Doesn't seem to do anything. And I did get that CPU overload from time to time. I don't know what that's all about. But you see there, the flight ended 2 minutes and 31 seconds on the flight, and I didn't quite get back to 3.5 volts. Moving on to the outside flight, this is kind of an evening, I shouldn't say evening, this is post-work, and you could probably kind of tell. But the camera doesn't do especially well outside in a couple of different lighting conditions, like overcast skies. It doesn't really like, and you can see there as I kind of punch up over the house. Where the sun's kind of setting, so the sun is relatively low in this flight. I would say, according to what I wrote down, it's about 6:15, which is still about an hour and 15 minutes away from sundown, or what is officially considered sundown. But when you get the camera down, kind of pointed at the ground, the light seems to even out. I think this camera is mainly made for indoor purposes, as you might expect with a Whoop. But it's something that when you get started in FPV, you might not know that. So I think it's pretty important to bring out that this doesn't necessarily handle different sunlight outside very well, especially if you're used to either full-sized analog cameras or even some of the micro cameras like the Baby Ratel 2. And if you've flown HD and you're considering analog, you're probably going, wow, you know, this doesn't hold up when it comes to the image quality. But of course, part of that is just analog. Welcome to micros, I guess I should say. Our cameras are very, very light in micros, especially when we get to performance-based 65 millimeters. You know, you can't have a 10-gram camera on these things. You got to keep them 2 grams at most. Generally, we prefer to have them a little bit less than that. But it flies nicely. When I was flying this outside, let's see, temperature was 68 degrees, and the wind was only 7 to 9 miles per hour. But I did note that it wasn't necessarily I wasn't necessarily feeling the full effect of that 7 to 9 miles an hour. That's probably why I did it after getting home from work and whatnot. But you see there, I was going to do my little dive down there, and I got too far, and I tried to circle down into my little gap between the Japanese maple and the outdoor cook space, but couldn't quite pull it off, and so we had another crash. And there we go. We're seeing another of those special little warnings on the screen about the battery is dying. So I'm going to bring it into land here in just a moment, because that's one of the things that I was always finessing with during my time with it, is how long can I make it fly. This particular case, the flight was 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Again, brand new battery. I did get the battery voltage back up to 3.5 volts. So I had it down to 3 volts, and it recovered all the way back up to 3.5. So the Canopy, I know this is a relatively new Canopy, but it just, this whole edge out here, it doesn't provide any camera protection at any angle. And this seems like some bulk that we could get rid of, or it seems like the adapter needs to be designed to sink the camera back a little bit more. I don't know. It's just one of those things that got a new Canopy. They've been using this BI camera for quite a while. I'm not sure why the design and the engineering behind it didn't line up to where we at least get the camera back to the edge of the protection, because they built this protection, but the camera is sticking a good couple of millimeters outside of that edge. So if you go hitting anything directly here, you're going to have to hope that whatever it is hits down here or just stops here and doesn't roll up, to keep that camera in good health and good standard. I mentioned it a couple times, but the camera is adjustable. You can just actually kind of move it here, and it will move in some crashes. I had that happen a couple times. It actually moved up to where I had more camera angle. That was pretty sporty getting it back, especially I recall that happening in the house. Both antennas, if you can see down in here, are on UFL connectors. The connector for the camera is also a little bit smaller than we normally see for micro cameras. Most of the time with micro cameras, we actually don't have connectors all the time. We oftentimes solder them directly to the board, but you can kind of get a peek of it down there, that it's a little bit smaller than usual, but it's made for NewBeeDrone's camera. As you can see kind of there on the back, it says BI right down there. PH2.0 connector. I didn't have a problem with the length or anything on here. As far as getting longer flight times, you can fly slower and you'll get more flight time. The connector, I'm kind of beating this up, but I think this is an important point, especially for people who are new. These batteries, this connector is going to wear down. It's only got a certain number of times it will marry up to this before it starts to wear down. And you can see that the connector itself is also causing quite a bit of voltage sag, in my opinion, because these are brand new batteries. I bought these specifically just for this review, because all my other PH2 batteries are relatively well used, or they're just aged. I've done them for other reviews. So I bought a pack of 6 brand new for this, and I was seeing quite a bit of voltage sag. Of course, some of that is you've got high kV motors. High kV motors You can do something like a motor limit through Betaflight, which is relatively simple in order to turn down the maximum output of the motors so that you have that limit set. So say 70%. You don't need that top 70% of performance, and you can turn that down, and that will probably give you a little bit of flight time back. It doesn't necessarily change the efficiency of the motor, just changes how much of the motor throttled, so to speak, that you can use. So you're probably not going to get huge amounts of flight time. This is flashed with Blue Jay, and it is 48 kilohertz. So you could go up to 96 kilohertz, and that might give you a little bit more flight time, but it's also going to change the braking on the motors, which it takes me some adjustment to, and by default, I prefer 48 kilohertz or even 24 kilohertz. 96 it takes me a while to get used to that. So if I pick up a quad for the first time, I fly like a duck out of water a little bit because the props slow down slower with those higher PWM factors on the ESC. Canopy's good and strong. I don't have any problems with the construction of it. It held up well in all my crashes inside the house, and even that one that I showed you outside where I crashed. Of course, it wasn't cold, so that's good. I've already said it, but it just seems like there was a design miss with this canopy and the camera protection. There just isn't any at any angle. I mean, there's just none. Doesn't matter what angle you're at, there's no camera protection, but otherwise the quad flies well. And if you're not looking for super long flight times, it is a potential purchaser there. There is also, I think they check the website, but I think they offer a lifetime warranty or some limited lifetime warranty on the cockroach frames. That might vary. That might have been something old I'm remembering. They do also, if you have a motor wire ripped out, the NewBeeDrone motors tend to be a bit smoother, and they also have solder pads right here. So if you get a motor wire it's ripped out, you can, splice in a new wire if you need to, or you can solder that. It's tedious, small soldering. You're going to need to be, somewhat experienced, and you're going to need to have a small tip on your soldering iron in order to accomplish that. But that's something that we don't see on all of our micro motors when it comes to whoops. So they've made some improvements in some ways, lowering the weight, performance KV's gone up, but that PH2.0 connector, I think you're going to have to abandon that relatively quickly. We have other connectors that we can use, like the A30, which is BT2.0 compatible, or you can use BT2.0. Those are available on the market. NewBeeDrone had, like I said, the race spec that I think they released with the A30, which is BT2.0 compatible, as well as A30 compatible. So there are some options for you if you were to have this one or to want this one. Again, as far as colors go, that's random according to their website. For all I know, they could be shipping all this lime green. Of course, I would have preferred if I could have gotten blue, because blue is always better, right? But if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise about the NewBeeDrone HummingBird V4, please let me know in the comments section below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.